Well, so Abraham has bowed down to the ground as these three emissaries, of course, were later told in the text here and in the following chapter about their nature and their identity. They are, of course, messengers from God, and one of them is described as the Lord himself. So we have this kind of pre-incarnate form of God that is described, or at least he's a representative directly from God. The other two, remember, in the end, the context of the messengers going down to Sodom and Gomorrah, you'll have the continuing work of the two. But so Abraham has bowed down before these divine messengers, and then he says, Adonai, my Lord, if indeed I find favor in your eyes, imna matsati chen be'eneka. And then he says, al na, do not, ta'avor, don't pass by, don't pass me by. This old song, uh, uh, from upon your servant, avdeka. But instead, let me prepare a hospitable setting for our interaction. So, takes a little water, you cock, bring some water, and washes the feet. Again, the washing of the feet is a customary when you bring somebody into your tent. One of the honorific forms in the ancient world, and like the whole different requirement in the context of Jesus in the Last Supper, washing the feet of his disciples. But again, it's an honorific form. There we have a context of purity laws that are described in one's preparation to partake of the Passover meal, the washing of the hands and the washing of the feet, particularly in the ancient world where you've walked through the dirty streets. But so he takes a little water, ma'at mayim, he washes their feet, the ragalekim, and then they lay out beneath the tree. And then he provides bread for their consumption, so they have a bite to eat together. And if you notice the way I've kind of outlined this sequence as they go through the different verbs in this scene of honoring these visitors, that he'll gradually learn more and more about their identity. Now, they're simply described as three men at the beginning of this narrative, and of course their identity is going to be further revealed. But Abraham sets himself up as a servant, the exemplary person of hospitality in the ancient world, in the presence of these divine servants. So, after that, they, of course, will then go forth, but before they go, they have a message. And so, for an account of this, you shall cross over against your servant, and then the end of this section into verse 5, and they said, thus you shall do just as you have spoken. And so Abraham says, let's have a party. Let's have a celebration. We'll go through the typical honorary feasting process. And so verses 4 and 5 set up the scene. Verses 6 and following lay out the process. So Abraham hurries, wastes no time. Vayimacher, a PL form from mahar, to hurry, to hasten, to the tent, goes to Sarah and says, please hurry and prepare the special meal of kemak solet, a very fine flour that should be laid out, be kneaded and made into cakes, ugot. By the way, you sort of have modern Hebrew developed from ancient Hebrew, A nugot is any form of pastry or cookie today in modern Hebrew. Uga. If you see uga on a package, it's a package of cookies or small cakes or something like that. So she makes the customary honorific meal, and then furthermore they prepare meat. Habakar, Ratz Avraham. Abraham hurries and prepares meat. He takes some of that meat and prepares it for them and gives it to the Hanaar, who's a young man, so that he can hurry and prepare it. So, again, the setup in verses 3 through 8 of this honorific meal, and then there beneath the tree at the end of verse 8, they consume this feast together. So meat and bread that would be typically accompanied by wine in that day is the presentation of this special meal as he entertains these visitors. So then, of course, as follows in the context, as we'll conclude at this point, the focus. As they are there in verse 10, he said, Shuv or Shov Ashuv. I will surely. So we have Shov is the Cal infinitive absolute preceding the finite verb, the imperfect of Shuv, Ashuv. And remember, when the infinitive absolute precedes a finite verb, it's for emphasis. If it was after the finite verb, if it was Ashuv, Shov, then it would denote continuous action. I will continue to return. But here, and again, context kind of dictates that, I will surely return to you. Ka'et Kaya, literally in the time of living, which is an Old Testament way of referring to like this time next year, in this very season of the year, the next time around in the cycle of life. Behold, a son to Sarah, your wife. You could take this law in a variety of ways. A son for, two, that will come through Sarah, your wife. Into verse 10, Sarah hears as she's kind of hanging around the door of the tent. Abraham and Sarah were, of course, again, reminder that they're old. They are old ones. Zakenim, Ba'im, Bayamayim, or Bayamim. They are literally going in days, which means they're even furthermore going up in their years. And as this revelation continues, verse 12, Sarah laughed in the presence, saying, no way, guys. After all, I am a bit aged. I am beyond the way of the living. There's no way this could happen to me. That, because I'm old. I mean, after all, it's not possible. That she's thinking and she has laughed. But the Lord confirms his promise to Abraham and to Sarah that they would have a son. About a year later, they were to name him Isaac. Laughter. After their laughing response, the unbelievable response to God's revelation, believe it or not, you will have a son and you will name him Laughter. And the story continues next time.